Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
You can't really excuse other stuff just because, well, they tried.
Listen, man, I really like this film. I think this is the last great swashbuckling film.
Quite arguably the best filmmaker of our generation.
And then they like it and they tell their friends and it kind of balloons from there. But when you're...
Do free plugs during the show?
Let's do a video game. It's probably true. Hi, I'm Mike Butler.
And I'm Mike Field.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode we highlight a film that for a variety of reasons was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the time, or maybe the movie didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or maybe what we don't love about it, and decide whether the movie is worth a podcast. As always, feel free to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, or wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Hi.
Hey.
Nice job. You got through that in one take.
I did.
I'm impressed. I mean, I'm kind of impressed.
It doesn't take much, apparently.
Oh.
So, what are we doing today?
Am I gonna be the introduction of the?
Oh, I guess I could do
No,
that.
I'll do it.
No.
Whoa. I got it.
Wait, do you want me to put some background on it? Do you want me to?
What is that laughing? I don't know why he's laughing before he strikes. We are doing the 1994 movie The Shadow.
Ooh.
That's right. Starring Alec Baldwin as Lamont Cranston, or The Shadow.
Wait, Lamont Cranston's The Shadow?
I didn't really mean to blow it for you, but yeah, spoiler alert. The rich guy with the rich-sounding name is The Shadow. John Lone plays Shiwan Khan, Penelope Ann Miller as Margot Lane, Peter Boyle as Mo, because I didn't feel like writing his last name down, Ian McKellen as Reinhardt Lane, he is Margot Lane's father, Tim Curry as Farley Claymore, and Jonathan Winters as Police Commissioner Wainwright Barth.
I love these names.
They are very comic booky. Yeah, so this movie was released July 1st, 1994. Big time weekend in the summer blockbuster area. It went up against Baby's Day Out, which is not good. Maybe I'm not the...
I don't think you're the right audience for it.
This is probably true. But to be fair, I think Baby's Day Out is trying to capitalize on the Look Who's Talking craze.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though it was maybe a decade earlier than that. I Love Trouble, again,
I don't think I know what that one is.
Don't worry about it.
All right.
Little Big League, which I like because it had Kevin Elster, the shortstop for the New York Mets, in there, and so that's why I liked it. And it was all right. It was okay. Blown Away, starring Jeff Bridges and oh my gosh, Tommy Lee Jones. I think Tommy Lee Jones is the bad guy in that one. So I mean, not a big group to be with. You know, we'd think that The Shadow would do well that week.
Yeah.
Of course, 5 days later, on July 6th, the movie Forrest Gump was coming out, so anything that was going to come out before then was probably going to get blown out of the water.
I think I've heard of that one.
Yes, you have. But also, to the detriment of The Shadow, it premiered number 2 in its first week because in its third week, The Lion King was still kicking butt. So, yeah, I mean, you weren't going to beat that. And The Shadow barely beat Speed Out in its fourth week, the Keanu Reeves movie. So, not a great time for The Shadow, and maybe that's probably why it could be considered forgotten.
Speed's tough because that's kind of the same. That's drawn from the same audience, but Speed you're going to get more of a general audience going to see it because it's just a general action movie.
But Speed's really good.
I do like.
So yes.
Wait, what are you trying to say about The Shadow?
I maybe a little spoiler alert. No, I'm not trying to say that. It comes in at 108 minutes, which I appreciate. Rated PG-13. Had a budget of $25 million. That's estimate. Domestically, it grossed $32 million. Worldwide, $48. So I guess you could say that it's in the black, but I would assume no. Directed by Russell Mulcahy, which I'm curious if you know who he is.
I tried to think of who he was, and I didn't know off the top of my head.
He does a lot of music videos, but he's also the director of Highlander and Highlander 2: The Quickening. So, and Highlander's, and you have not seen these movies, I'm assuming.
I've seen Highlander.
Okay.
I really like Highlander, and I watched the TV series. I watched part of 2. Saw the aliens and turned off 2.
Listen, The Quickening is not great, but it's not bad, so you might want to go back and revisit.
One day.
Written by David Koepp, who we have already talked about previously, Stir of Echoes. He's maybe there's a theme here with Mr. Koepp that he's going to be all around our forgotten cinema movies.
He's also done a lot of movies that aren't forgotten, though.
True. He's written Jurassic Park. Come on, give me some more. Indiana Jones, the Crystal Skull he did, right?
He did do.
Yeah.
He was one of like the 90 writers on Crystal
but
Skull.
he has done a lot of stuff. He is a very, very, very good writer who I appreciate.
Does he do novels?
I don't think so, no.
That's too bad.
But, don't quote me on that.
I feel like they'd be really quick. They'd be good reads.
So before we get into the plot of the movie, we like to do a little spoiler alert. Do not continue on with this podcast if you haven't seen it. Odds are you have, so let's just forget it. We're going to keep going. You know what? I'm tired of the spoiler alerts because who cares at this point?
Oh,
right?
Wow. I mean, this movie isn't a mystery, so it's a superhero fighting back.
You didn't know that Lamont Cranston was the Shadow, so clearly
that is true. You did kind of ruin that for me.
So really quickly, the Shadow is based upon the pulp novels, pulp novels, pulp stories,
Pulp
not
novels, radio plays.
Right.
It was tough to track down exactly what came first. It seems like it was kind of radio and then the pulp novels, and then he came back.
Oh, actually, I think it was actually pulp stories first.
Okay.
Then the radio play. If I begin to describe the Shadow, if he sounds familiar, it's it's not a coincidence because the Shadow was Bob Kane's, I guess, inspiration for when he did Batman. So it's very similar to the Batman storyline. Wealthy man who takes to the night to avenge evil and to stop bad guys. In the case of the Shadow, he is somebody who can manipulate men's minds and women's minds to let them see what he wants them to see, whether he just isn't there, whether they're seeing a building that's not there, whether they don't see the building, whatever it is, the Shadow can do that. The only problem is that he cannot make you not see his shadow, which is why he's called the Shadow. So Lamont Cranston is a New York socialite who is trying to stop evil. He learns of the Shiwan Khan, who's a descendant of Genghis Khan, who has come to New York City in the 1930s to, I guess, obliterate it. That's kind of what he wants to do, take over the world or reshape it in his form, whatever. So the Shadow is basically there to stop him. And that's why the plot is really simple, but we'll get into it a little bit. It's kind of muddied in terms of the Shadow itself, this movie itself.
I suppose, yeah.
But there's an appreciation with pulp stories. I do appreciate the simplicity of the story. Bad guy, good guy. Let's stop him. There's something to be said for that storytelling. I enjoy it quite a bit because you always have shady characters and just kind of like, duplicitous men and women and who's on whose side and all that stuff. I enjoy that. So that's probably why when we first started talking about doing these podcasts, The Shadow was one of the early ones, but it was in there, right? Was it an early one? When we were trying to decide which movies to do. Pardon.
So fun fact, all right, Field's gone to stop his home phone because we don't have a recording studio. While he's gone, I want to just let you know that anything he talks about the Shadow is wrong. Everything I say is right. Sixth Sense is better than Stir of Echoes.
Oh my God. Get over yourself. Okay. So a couple things that when I was going through, before we get to like our viewing notes, but a couple things that I was going through when I was researching, and I put the air quotes there. Did you know that Sam Raimi wanted to do this?
I do. I actually have that note. I got a couple of fun fact notes on this.
Ooh.
We probably matched.
You hit me with one then. Why am I'm always the one hitting you?
Did you know in Philip Jose Farmer's book, Tarzan Alive and Doc Savage's Apocalyptic Life,
I already know where you're going.
Margot Lane
I already know.
Was rumored to be the sister of Lois Lane.
Yeah, I did see that. I have that down here too. But that doesn't mean anything. That's rumored. I mean, that's not legit. Although, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if in 10 years I don't see a movie with the shared DC universe and I see a Shadow movie and they have Margot Lane as the sister of Lois Lane.
I'm pretty sure a new Shadow movie has been in the works for a few years now, but I think the rights to the Shadow are very muddied. It's very much like some of it is in the common domain now, so anybody can do it, but certain parts of his backstory and powers and supporting characters are not quite 90 years old yet. So certain people can't use some of the rights.
Well, the problem with The Shadow is that if it comes out now, people are going to be like, oh, that's just ripping off Batman. People aren't going to realize that it's before Batman.
Right.
So it's almost like they got to put that in the trailer. Before Batman, there was The Shadow.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of, Thanos was ripped off from Apocalypse or Darkseid in DC Comics, but because he came first in the movies, when DC Comics started to try to introduce it, I'm sure if they had gotten further in the Justice League series that they wanted to do, people would have been all, hey, this is just Thanos again.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though Darkseid came first originally.
Exactly. So, back to the fun facts. Did you know that its first radio play was in 1937, and the Shadow was played by Orson Welles?
I did know that.
Nice. Well done.
Have you ever heard any of them?
No.
They're actually not bad.
The radio plays or the Shadow?
The Orson Welles ones, yeah. I've heard other ones that aren't Orson Welles, and they're... I mean, Orson Welles is fantastic, so they are kind of like elevated, but his are very, very good. And he does a really good Shadow voice. Nice.
Okay, well, let's get into the movie. Did you like it? So I saw this movie when it first came out. When did you see this movie? When it was out in the theaters?
Oh, I saw this movie when I was out.
Okay, so now we've probably already talked about this, but we're from Connecticut.
Yes.
No apologies. So we're around the New Haven area. Where did you? Because I saw it this was the last movie I saw at the, I want to say Old Orange, but the first Old Orange, which was the one that was on Exit 41, and then it moved across the street or across the bridge to the other one. But I saw it was the last one of the original Showcase 1/7.
I probably saw it in the same place because unless it played at the Fourplex or Cherry Street, that's probably where I had seen it.
Well, this one was the one that has the long driveway, and you go all the way down.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I saw this at a screening. So, fun fact: when you work at a movie theater, not now because it's apparently frowned upon, and corporate's really uncool about it. But back in the day, when you used to work at the theater, everyone knew that like Thursday night. Because this is when film was film, it wasn't digital, and you had to build prints. So the way you build a film print, you get it in cans. You get like 5 to 6 reels. Have we gone over this before here?
Not on this podcast. No.
So you get cans. You get 2 cans, and they have 5 to 6 reels of film. They're 20 minutes each, but you have to splice the entire movie together. So you have to figure out what's heads, what's tails, and make sure that it's not upside down. And when they do this, the projectionist has to then watch the movie to make sure that he did it correctly. I will give you a couple. I watched Star Trek First Contact, and I watched out a sequence because the projectionist that put it together put reel 6 ahead of reel 5, so I saw the ending before I saw what was going up to the ending, and nobody realized it because it was the clip. The cut was so seamless. You were just like, what's going on here? And then I remember watching Independence Day, and one of the reels, one of the 20 minutes was upside down, so I had to watch the entire movie upside down. That was really upsetting, even though Independence Day. So this is what they did back in the day because you had to check it. And so then when the projections would watch it, of course, all the managers and all the employees wanted to watch it with them. And back then it was fine. It was cool. It was you basically, at the end of the night, the theater closed. It was midnight. People would wait. Okay, ready to watch it. And you just watch the movie. And that's great. That was probably why I probably stuck with working at the theater when I was so young, because it was just like free movies every Thursday night.
Absolutely.
So that is when I watched The Shadow with a bunch of friends of mine. And that was the last. So that I had seen it then. I saw it again maybe like 10 years later, and then until when we for this. So my experience with The Shadow is a memorable movie theater going experience. I just wanted to lay that out there.
So The Shadow is probably, I don't remember exactly where I saw it, but I remember I did see it in the theater. I remember the ads for the toys. I actually have a couple of the Shadow action figures. I was never allowed to have the taxi. Moe's taxi, which I really regretted because his taxi was cool. I also wanted the decoder ring, which they sold. Like, I remember the Shadow being like this really cool Batman type character. I really liked the hat. I was really into Darkwing Duck at the time as well, which Darkwing Duck is
like hardcore Darkwing Duck. You were really into it.
Oh, well, as a kid, yeah, as much as a kid could be.
Did you dress like Darkwing Duck?
Probably I pretended to be Darkwing Duck a couple times. I had his magnifying glass, but Darkwing Duck was heavily inspired by the Shadow. He had the hat. He had the scarf. His saying was very similar to "He knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men." So
that's pretty much on par. That's exactly what he says.
Yeah. So I was really into The Shadow when The Shadow came out. It was like, all right, this is like a hardcore Darkwing Duck. He's kind of like Batman. I really liked his outfit, and I was like, all right, this is cool. So when I watched The Shadow, I was really into it. I was 7 years old, so that's why I like Darkwing Duck so much.
Oh, I'm so old. I feel so old. I wasn't 17.
I wasn't supposed to be a dig on your age. It was this is where I'm coming from as a 7-year-old.
I didn't take it as a dig. I was 19 back then. That's
exactly.
fine.
Yeah. So we're coming at it from different ages.
Listen, I know that it sucks to get old. I get that. Everyone says that. But honestly, like I'm happy that I got to see some of these movies that everyone's like, oh, I love this movie. Movies come back out in theaters, like Jurassic Park and all these movies that are coming back out in theaters. It's like, yeah, but I got to see these when they first were out. So I got to experience those kind of like the initial like hype. Like everyone's asking me, like, if you get a time machine, what would you do? It's like I would go back to movie premieres and like I'd want to watch Jaws when it first came out. Like I want to watch, you know what I mean? I want to watch Raiders when it first came out. You know, because I was way too young to remember that. I was 4 years old, or no, 6 years old when it came out. So, you know, that's the kind of stuff. Like, I'm glad that I got to experience stuff like that. Right. So that's good. Don't worry about the old jokes. It's all right.
I'm just trying to point out that I'm gonna really like The Shadow. Spoiler alert. So I'm coming at it from a kid who grew up with it, and then I've watched it a few times since then. Had it on VHS. My fiance had never seen it a few years ago, so I bought the DVD. Yeah, which, by the way, doesn't have special features.
Really?
Somebody get on that. Watched it with her. She was not a huge fan. I asked her if she wanted to watch it with me again the other day. She said no. And then so I watched it by myself, sadly.
Your fiance sounds like a smart woman. So why don't you tell me something that still held up for you from your initial viewing to now?
I'll tell you the same thing, which is why I think we both kind of wanted to add it to this list. Is his backstory, which isn't actually a part of his lore previously, but that David Koepp made it, where he's got this dark backstory. He was not a good person. He was a terrible barbarian type warlord in I think China.
No, was
it Taiwan, China?
No, it was around. Yeah, it was like they said it some province. Yes,
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so he basically went over there for World War One, became a drug lord, and just basically murdered people, shooting through his own advisors to get people that wronged him.
That's an awesome. That's anytime someone brings up The Shadow, I always bring up that line: "Shoot through him."
It's a great line.
I always bring up that line. But something I wondered is, so he comes back. When he comes back to New York City, why is he rich? How is he rich? Is he rich because he was an opium drug lord and he just took all the money with him?
I'm sure he probably gave all that to the towns that he destroyed. He probably had to have made his sensei or whatever, his Buddhist Buddha type guy, probably told him, hey, you have to give all that back to the people that you've been wronged. But he has family money.
Okay,
that's part of his lore.
Listen, that's fine, and that's great in the comics, and that's great in the pulp novels, and that's great and all there. But in this movie, they never say that.
Right? They
never say that, and so I just not even a throwaway line. Like, he has got the biggest house, and I saw one servant, I saw one butler who looked like he was 95 years old, and that was it. And I'm sitting there going, okay, where's your money, and who the heck is cleaning your house? Who the heck is putting this fire on all the time? And they never show anybody. And like that also got me wondering, you know, he's the Shadow, and I get it. He tricks the people's minds, so they probably see him, and then when they figure out the Shadow, he just does like, I'm not the Shadow. He's does that whole thing with them. But you got to do that an awful lot of times if you're just okay willy-nilly about who you are. And he doesn't really hide it a lot. Like, doesn't really care to. Yeah. So what held up for you was just his backstory, which I know what you're talking about because I read how Koepp talked about. He focused on, he knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men, like that line, and that kind of shaped him to figure out, like, why does he know what evil lurks?
I like that.
Like, so he kind of, that's where that backstory came from, created that, just he was evil, and which makes complete sense. I just, to your point, I would have liked to have seen more of that. I would like to have had, if this is made now, this is one of the things I enjoyed about the movie, which I'm gonna sound like I'm gonna complain about, but I'm not.
Right.
If this was made today, it probably would have been a little bit more serious. It would have been, because it would have been probably like Dark Knight. It would have been like something like that, and I probably want to see that type of Shadow movie. But since it's made in the '90s, this is very, very symbolic of the 90s,
Absolutely,
of 90s superhero filmmaking. Or, I mean, I don't want to really technically call him a superhero. It's a comic book movie almost, right? Would you say it's that? Even though it's a pulp novel?
He's got powers, but it really is pulpy. Yeah. It really is kind of mixed with like Dick Tracy meets Batman Returns.
That's one of my notes here is what I enjoy about this is the production design, is the special effects, all create the overall tone of 90s filmmaking, that Dick Tracy style New York City, which I like. I actually like the Dick Tracy movie with Warren Beatty.
As do I.
Yes. So like I like seeing the digital matte paintings. I like seeing the models. I like seeing the matte when they're on the bridge in the beginning and that hue. You could tell that's a matte.
Yeah, it's a backdrop. And
you could tell that, and I'm fine with that. I enjoy all that. So like that to me didn't pull me out, didn't bother me because, I mean, anything that, not that I can see like, oh, I know how they did that, or in terms of filmmaking wise, I just think I can appreciate it because I know, like, that's there's a lot of manpower and there's a lot of talent that goes into all that,
right? And
I can appreciate that. So that's one of the things I enjoyed about the revisit of this movie. I enjoyed the humor as well. Sometimes I thought the humor was kind of like,
too jokey, too much.
Yeah, I thought that it was just kind of like, I don't know, like there's lines that I like in the movie. Like when he's like, "Where'd you get that tie?" He's like, Brooks Brothers, like that stuff.
Did you know that that's actually supposed to be like pretty much on point with what they used to do in the radio show? They used to compliment each other's clothing pieces and stuff, and then mention where it's from.
Product placement, stuff
early
like that.
Product placement.
What helps this movie is the style of the era of the 1930s. I think that adds to the comic book feel of the pulp novel. The sense of the film. I think that adds to it.
So does their dialogue as well. I mean, Alec Baldwin, he's very kind of stoic most of the time, even when he's kind of being jokey. He's got a dry sense of humor. But his Uncle Wayne, Margot, Tim Curry's character, they all kind of talk in this way of like really placing you in the time.
Yeah.
And I really think I like that. I mean, it comes off as a little like cheesy nowadays because that's not really how people talk even back then, but it's how they spoke when they filmed things.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of really dug that.
Yeah.
Especially the club scenes.
When him and Winters together, when they're at, Jonathan Winters is funny. Like I almost feel like when I'm watching those scenes and I see Winters, it's almost like I can tell, like, not that he's holding back, but it's almost like I want to see him funnier.
Okay, yeah.
But he does, like, he has those little zingers every once in a while. But like I'm kind of like I get the sense that it was just like he wasn't going full on Winters, which is hilarious. Jonathan Winters is hilarious.
Well, if it's got sequels, maybe you could have seen more of that.
Oh, maybe. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, but you know what? Since you brought up the characters, I thought that they didn't use Curry's character Farley Claymore enough.
I agree. They didn't use McKellen's character enough.
Yeah, and I mean, knowing who Ian McKellen is now, what he has done compared to when this is like probably early Ian McKellen. So, I mean, he's not Gandalf. He's not, Magneto.
Right.
So he's not really the star that he is now. So you don't know.
But he's the man that essentially he built the A-bomb early by himself in this story.
Yeah.
So in terms of story-wise, I don't understand why they didn't just use him more for that, just to focus on that. I mean, I do like that they're trying to figure out, I like the scene where they're trying to figure out the name of what would you call this? Oh, so it's like some kind of atomic bomb, and I thought that was I kind of thought that was lame, but also kind of awesome. That line is both good and bad.
So Claymore is working on the beryllium sphere. So are we to assume that this is a shared universe with Galaxy Quest? Because aren't they going after beryllium in Galaxy Quest?
They are. They need it to power their.
So I mean, I'm wondering. I mean, can we say this is a shared universe?
Sure. We can say whatever we want.
We can? Oh, excellent. Did you notice that Alf's dad was in it?
I did not.
Yeah, the curator in the beginning, when they first find Shiwan Khan, it's supposed to be Genghis Khan's silver tomb, but Shiwan Khan is in it. And he's like, "What's this?" And he's like, he's the worst curator. He's like, "Dude, open it up."
Oh, absolutely. Well, did you notice the guard? The guard in the museum, that's Neelix from Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah, I got that. I knew he was a Star Trek guy, and I was going to write the note down, and then I'm like, Michael, do it.
Yeah, Trek Watch.
One of the things, I don't want to go too nitpicky, but so in that scene, because we're talking about the opening, in that scene, he comes out of the case, it opens up, he comes out of the tomb, it opens up, he tells that guy to shoot himself, he does, and then he hides. So, like, why are you hiding?
I thought the same thing.
Yeah. Like, you can just tell people what to do. You can just control people's minds. Or you could just walk straight ahead and, like, disappear. They won't see you.
If he wants to control the city, why not just have those two guys clean up the body, not have the police investigate anything, not have anybody on the trail? Although, he's kind of making his mark with that first dead body, and I think he's trying to goad the shadow out. So maybe that's why.
But see, here's the thing. He doesn't goad him out because he just follows them to his lair.
That's
it's
true
like
too,
really
yeah.
like, hey, what's up? It's like, what?
Which I do like that scene a lot. I always like scenes where the villain and the hero meet up at one point and just have a discussion.
The scenes themselves, like that scene, and then the scene when they meet in the Chinese food restaurant, the Chinese restaurant. When they first meet, those two scenes are good. They're engaging. They're funny. They're both, whatever. It's well done. But in terms of just kind of like how they got there, and in the point of the story, it just doesn't. It's part of my note of it being muddied. Like, just everything's just all over the place. Like,
sure.
it's real. Like, so, like, I explained the plot of the story in the beginning of this. So explain it to me. Like, basically, like, guy comes here, wants to blow up the city, gets a bomb. Shadow's got to stop him. Done. That's like a 20-minute movie. And there's stuff in here where they're trying to do the stuff with Margot, and she's telepathic, and he talks about how, like, she doesn't know how powerful she is, but we never go back to that. Just she's still telepathic.
Well, I think we want to establish a universe for sequels. And I think that's kind of what they're doing, especially with Margot, because she is a main character in all of Shadow lore. So that I think they assume, oh man, we're going to make so much money. Alec Baldwin's hot right now.
Super hot.
Superheroes. Let's do this movie, make a sequel. In 2 years from now, we'll do another one. We'll do Shadow 2.
But do you think they're really thinking that back then? Because now you're thinking of, like, this is 2019 eyes you're looking back at, where everything's world building now.
I mean, at that point, I don't think necessarily world building, but building characters to continue on the story. You've got Batman. At this point, Batman Returns has come out.
This is 94, so Batman was 89. Batman Returns was, 92.
I think 92. So
yep.
You've got a movie franchise already where they're like, okay, and our character is similar to Batman. Mm-hmm. We could definitely make more of these. So I think they introduce things like his uncle, Margot, and say, okay, we can make more of a world out of this. I think that's why we don't visit his training as much, because we can go back to it later. Stuff like that. I mean,
no, it's funny is that every time when I was watching it, all I kept thinking was Batman, 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 and it's just like that's unfair, as we said before, because it came before Batman. Mm-hmm. But again, anybody going back to it now is going to say that, and I think that's probably partly why maybe this movie is not that it needs giving its due, but people really just don't. I never saw that movie and don't care to, because I think they view it as a Batman clone.
I guess. I mean, I never look at it like, hey, this is Batman. He's a rich guy who dresses up at night and beats up bad guys.
That's the Batman story.
There's a ton of heroes and vigilantes who do the same thing.
Sure.
I mean, take away the rich guy aspect, the Punisher's a Batman character.
Whoa. Punisher's killing people. Punisher's killing people.
Shadow's got guns. Shadow kills people. He doesn't kill anybody in this movie.
No, he does. He does kill somebody in this movie, because when he pushes when they take Reinhardt away. He goes there and he fights them. He pushes the guy off the roof, and they land on that gargoyle, and he's like, next time you be on top. Which
right, okay.
Which I can't believe that line made it through.
Next time you get to be on top.
That guy's dead. Like, he leaves him there.
That's true.
And because then the next guy he tries to save, which I didn't understand. Why are you trying to save that guy when you just completely broke this dude's back?
Well, the guy tosses the Shadow off the ledge.
They
both go tumbling.
They both go tumbling off, and then the Shadow lands on him.
Right.
And then the second guy, the Shadow flips over, and
tries to catch him. Yeah.
I don't blame that death on him, but that death should have been bloodier, because he fell from a pretty skyscraper, and he just, it should have been blood everywhere. But it's you once tried to get me to watch Arrow on CW,
right.
And I was like, dude, it's Batman. It's Batman. And I know that's an unfair criticism, I'm sure, because it's based on a comic book and all that stuff, and I get it. Plus, I wasn't into it. So
Arrow kind of, they do take a lot of Batman stuff and add it to his backstory, which never was there before.
So now I got a question, because I talked about how I like the 90s style.
Right.
Do you think that this movie suffers from the fact that do you think it's a victim of 90s era filmmaking? Like, do you think the style of filmmaking during this time, whatever the tools they had or the special effects they had, whatever it is, do you think that hurts the movie for future audiences?
For future audiences, yes.
Okay.
I think I appreciate it like the same way you appreciate it. Yes, it's very nostalgic. You look back and go, oh man, that's so 90s. You can appreciate the way it was
so
done.
90s.
But yeah, I mean, you look at it today and it's like he doesn't kill anybody. Why? Probably because they had a mandate back then. They don't have him kill anybody. Don't use his guns. Today you could, like you said, make the movie darker. I would love to see a Shadow remake, but I would love to see them use some of David Koepp's stuff. I want to see that dark backstory for the Shadow.
But I already know where you're going with this.
Someone else is going to have to do it.
You want to see a 6-episode series on HBO?
Well, I always do, but I'm okay with a movie series as well,
Right.
or just a single movie, see how it works. But I like a lot of the stuff I like is stuff that David Koepp introduces, which like the dagger, well, I mean, I think some of his training
Right.
is actually established lore, but some of it isn't. And again, the rights are pretty much everywhere in terms of what parts of the Shadow you can use. And I would really love to see a grittier version of this Shadow. Now, is that what we would get if Sam Raimi got his hands on it?
No. You get Spider-Man, which is fine,
I like Spider-Man,
but that's what you would get.
the Shadow, to differentiate himself from Batman, should be using his guns. He should be killing the villains. That's what he did on the radio show. He wasn't this clean cut, I got a no-kill rule. It was, I know what evil lurks in the hearts of men.
Yeah.
They deserve to die.
I would say that I'd like to see a movie, but I would like to see a movie that's only given $10 million to make. Like, I would like to see a movie that's not, because $10 million is not, to me, is not low budget, but I get it. But like something where you rely on the wits of the filmmaker and the story itself like, I would rather see that kind of Shadow.
See, the setting makes it difficult, although you could do a modern Shadow. While I was looking at it, I was thinking what would be cool would be taking like what they want to do with Zorro now, where it's like modern day, doing a Shadow where you keep the line of shadows going, which another movie that's very much like The Shadow but not as good, The Phantom with Billy Zane.
Oh my God.
But do you remember that? Do you remember that movie?
Yes,
How
I
they
do.
have like, okay, there have been phantoms all throughout history. Why not do that with The Shadow? Okay, and then have like a cross story where you can do some 20s stuff, but save on budget by doing more modern stuff as well.
I don't mind it. Modern or contemporary or 30s or whatever it is. That's fine.
30s is tough to do low budget though, because you need
You
all
would
that
have
stuff.
you would have to rely on sets again.
Right.
And I mean, yes, agreed. So okay, so if I'll re-engineer my thinking. So if it's a modern day Shadow, I would still like it to be a $10 million budget. You know, you get quality acting, quality actors, quality writing. It's not, your studio's not forcing you to put somebody in that, all that stuff. You know, like, hey, listen, we have The Shadow. We like the couple movies that you have done. Go do something with this. We're only going to give you $10 million, and go make us something really nice. Doesn't have to be big. Don't make it big. Give me like John Wick. The first John Wick was only $20 million budget, and Lionsgate didn't know what to do with it, and they went off and made it on their own. Then they bought it. So go do that. Give me that kind of Shadow, and I'd be interested in seeing that.
Absolutely. His power set doesn't require a ton of money. Camera tricks, some shadows on the wall, stuff like that. Which in this movie, I really like when he first enters the hotel, and his shadow is very animated and very cartoony, and it spreads out with the cloak and the silhouette.
You're talking about at the end of the movie.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could absolutely do this on a low budget. And then if it, takes off, do more and more. Well, a lot like John Wick.
Yeah. Would the Shadow be living in the John Wick universe, I wonder? Could he be part of that universe? Well, let's not ruin the John Wick franchise. It's fantastic. Did you like John Lone? He played Shiwan Khan.
I do really like.
Okay.
I like that he's. I don't want to go back to John Wick again, but the character in John Wick 3, which by this point,
I don't care. Spoil John Wick 3. I don't care.
No. I'm just saying he's probably left the theaters by now. But there's a character in John Wick 3 who's really into John Wick, but he's still trying to hunt him down. I like that Shiwan Khan,
The sushi chef.
the sushi chef, correct.
Say that 5 times
Yeah,
fast.
no, I think I said it wrong right now. I like that Shiwan really admires Yinko, I guess was Lamont's name when he was in the warlord kind of stage.
Right.
And he really looks up to what he did and how evil he was and how powerful he was during even his training to become the Shadow. So I like that he's really kind of enamored by him, and that he's kind of more angry that he doesn't want to join his evil plot than that he is of him trying to stop him.
What's evident of that is when he sends Margot to kill him, and he knows that he's expecting him to kill Margot.
Nice tie.
Thank you.
By the way, you sent Margot Lane to kill me.
Kill you? If I wanted you dead, Yinko, I would have your liver on the pole by now. I sent a girl to be killed. Tell me, how did you kill her?
She's alive.
And she's a danger to you. She now knows exactly who you are. How long will you let her live? How long before your pure instincts take over?
Which I have to ask you, how is the Shadow not able to control Margot, but Shi-Wan Khan can?
I wondered the same thing, and then he's able to break her out of the spell.
I think I got the answer. That's called inconsistency.
Yes.
That's not good. I can't justify that.
Well, also, you're supposed to think that Shi-Wan Khan is a little more powerful than the Shadow, because he's able to control the dagger, which Lamont has never been able to do.
Which he does at the end.
He finally is able to do.
Yeah, which they never really explain how. How he couldn't I find it hard to believe that for 7 years he couldn't figure out to clear his mind at one point and control the dagger at one point. I couldn't figure that out. So again.
Well, I also read that there was more to that scene as well. That mirror scene, that whole entire end sequence was supposed to be a lot longer, where you actually saw more of his backstory as a warlord, because it played on these mirrors. Shi-Wan Khan projected it on his mind, and the Shadow becomes really kind of confused because he's seeing all these things when he was evil, and it's really stopping him from being able to do what he needs to do. But some kind of storm
there was an earthquake.
Earthquake, yep, destroyed the set. So they had to just do what they could do with what they had. So that's why that sequence feels, and it does. This time when I watched it, even before I read that, it felt very rushed.
Right.
Oh, he's running into this place. Let me go catch him. Oh, he's gone.
So a couple other things that I noticed within the movie itself. I don't know if we've talked about this before. I think me and you have talked about this before, off air, as they say. You noticed the split diopter shot in the movie, the split field shot. Okay, so
I didn't notice when
there's
it was.
there's a scene. I think she's sitting down. Margot's sitting, and her profile is what's in frame is in the foreground, and in the background is him sitting at. I think he's doing his. He got shot or something. I think that's what he's doing.
Okay,
and so they're both in focus. So that's that split field. Have we talked about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So real quickly, because I noticed it, and I know that we're going to see it again, and I kind of wanted to just kind of go over it a little bit in case people didn't know. So a split diopter shot is when the objects in the frame, both near and far, are in focus, and the way you've seen this before if you've seen movies, and the way you notice it is that there's a line down the middle of the frame, and usually it's blurred out by the editor, the director, just to kind of hide it. But it's a convex piece of glass that's attached to the lens that splits the shot in two. And it allows you to focus each side so that you can have each side in focus. So if I'm super close up staring and you've got my eyes and there's a dude behind me with a gun who's going to shoot me, if you can't have with a regular shot with the camera, you can't have both in focus. It's either me or the guy behind me. Sometimes you'll see a rack focus where you might see my eyes and I might not notice, and then a rack focuses, it's called, to the guy behind me, the background, and that'll come in focus. But you can't do it at the same time unless you use a split field shot. But you can't hide the fact that there's usually a line there. So sometimes people will hide it where they'll try to line the line up with a diagonal portion of the scenery, or they might try to keep it in darkness, in the middle, so you don't notice it. But typically it's usually blurred out. You would notice this if you watch a lot of Brian De Palma movies. He does this a lot in a lot of his films. So he'll use the split field shot a lot. So it's something I noticed in this one, and I did want to bring it up, and now I have. So there you go. But yeah. So I've never used that shot personally. I kind of want to, but I don't. I'm not a fan
it's tough
of that because immediately when I'm watching it, immediately I'm like, split diopter. Immediately I see it and I go to that and I'm just like, eh.
I think it depends on how well done it is. I didn't notice it this time, but I think it was a few months ago that I noticed it for the first time, really, and it really stood out and it was jarring. So I think if you don't do it well, and like you said, if it's not dark, it's really what's going on here?
There's ways to hide it, and even if they're able to hide the line in the middle, when you watch the movie, you notice it regardless because you're like, that shouldn't be. There's something off about it. Yeah, exactly.
Even your human eye doesn't focus like that.
Right. And then sometimes when you're watching movies and you've seen them for so long, you've watched so many films that you'll notice when the rack focus is going to come. because you'll see in the frame that there's somebody like in the background moving. You're like, here it comes. There's like that kind of stuff. Like, so you notice that, but that's just kind of like just always watching movies.
I do like rack focus. I like that trick.
Did you also? Not did you also? So when they're doing the messaging tubes,
Yes.
okay. Did you get like a 1984 vibe from the dude just sitting there with all the tubes pointing at him? The movie 1984, when he's just sitting there, he's waiting for messages to deliver to the shadow.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just really like the old schoolness of it. I really just liked. I mean, that's pretty much the internet for that age. Is those tubes.
At no point, nobody noticed these tubes around the city. Like, just one tube that's just in the middle of air.
Yeah. What was that? Oh, it was Lamont Cranston's tubes. What does he use them for? I don't know.
Who knows? Cranston, he's weird. He's a rich old guy from opium trade.
Where'd you hear that? That guy in there. What did you think of Tim Curry's character? I mean, you said he wasn't used enough, but did you think he was too over the top? Did you think he was good?
Well, Tim Curry's usually over the top.
Right.
I think that if I don't mind, like, because that's always a iconic scene in the movie where he's just spinning around shooting wildly like a crazy man.
When he goes nuts. I love that when he goes nuts.
Yeah.
But
You're a fool, Claymore. Get out of my sight! There's your exit, Claymore.
But like part of me wants to see him because he just basically turns heel. He's a bad guy.
I think he's inconsistent. I mean, he's definitely a bad guy.
Yeah.
But his attitude and his behavior is very inconsistent. Is he a little weasel? Is he super brave? I mean, he's kind of pretty cocky when he traps the shadow and he's like, I've got you.
Right. When he's in the sphere?
When he's in the sphere, he's just like, I know exactly what to do. Turns on the water, breaks a thing, locks him in, shoots him.
Right.
It's like, well, that's good moves. That's better than Shiwan Khan did this whole movie.
Yeah, and also the shadow's pretty brazen. He's just like he doesn't realize that he's gonna get when he floods the sphere. He's gonna be seen, and he's just like he's laughing, and then he gets shot. It's just like oh crap,
basically. I would have liked to see maybe more moments of that, like a little bit more of like he's not as good as Batman, like it's a little more risk. Like, okay, Batman's perfect. He's the perfect fighter. He's the perfect this and that. And Lamont Cranston's just, doing his best.
Struggling.
I do like that he gets shot in the arm both times, though. Like, just once and then the other shoulder. Like, that's just what happens.
Oh.
Always getting winged.
Claymore, I think, I'm wondering if there was scenes that were missing. Like, I'm wondering if there was... Because there's no scene where, like, Shiwan Khan goes to Claymore.
That's true,
You know what I mean? So maybe we're missing that. Or maybe he was going to hypnotize him. He's like, no, we're good. No, I'm all about it. Let's go. Let's blow up the world.
So, yeah, did he talk to him before he arrived to New York? Or did he talk to him once he got to New York? Right. I never thought about that either. That's very...
Because he just kind of... You only see him one... What's funny is that when you first see him, he's clearly a creep. And, like, he's, like... creeping all over Margot Lane, and like her father's just like, what? Huh? What's going on? It's like he's like oblivious to the fact that this creep is like and she like complains to him, and it's almost like you wanted to be like, hey Dad, your partner's a creep, please stop putting me in his crosshairs, like stop like pushing him towards me.
Well, she kind of says that.
Yeah, but
I don't know why you work for him.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought that was interesting.
So I know we already talked about the Alf's dad and then Neelix from... But did you notice there were a bunch of other little tiny like cameos?
Yep.
So there was the nurse from ER was one of the two guards.
No, Abraham Ben Ruby.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the guy who jumps off the Empire State Building.
Well, the other guard was somebody too.
Was he?
He
looked familiar, but...
Oh, I can't place him. He's a character actor, but you've seen him. What was the other guy you're talking about?
The guy who jumps off the Empire State Building is Patrick Fischler.
Yep.
Who's on Happy. He's in Twin Peaks. If you see him, you're like...
He's a character actor.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
But he looks exactly the same. Like, this dude has not aged at all in like
I'm sure he
30
appreciates
years.
that. He probably
Yeah.
appreciates that very much.
Listen, Patrick Fischler, what's your secret? And then one of the Mongols who doesn't look like he belongs. I don't know if you noticed him.
No, which scene?
He's in a couple of the scenes. He's in the attack when the Shadow attacks the lab and tries to save the father. And he's also toward the end. He's standing front and center next to Shiwan Khan when he's given the order to, hey, stop the Shadow in the hotel.
Right.
So that is Nils Allen Stewart, who is, if you see him, like if you pause and you're like, oh, that guy with the handlebar mustache, you've seen him in like The Mask and Space Cowboys and a ton of guest roles. And apparently he's super prolific as a stuntman. So he probably did a lot of the stunts and said, hey, can I be, a character in the movie? And they were like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, why
but he's
not?
still doing a ton of things.
Oh, right now?
Yeah, right now. And then obviously Larry Hankin was the taxi driver who blows himself up.
Yeah, I know. You need gas. I love that. Thanks for dropping me off at this place that I'm trying to make sure nobody knows about. Can you just go do this giant explosion over there?
No, that's over there.
That won't draw any attention to this block. Not at all. Not a huge gas explosion in the middle of downtown New York City.
No, shut down everything.
Not at all. Not at all. So I know I asked you if you like John Lone. One of the things that, and I don't know if this is a negative or a positive. One of the things that his performance. And probably because he was being jokey, was that he reminded me a lot of Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for this movie.
Well, I think the fact that you asked me about it means that you don't think it's a good thing.
I don't know because I love Big Trouble in Little China.
It's a good movie.
I just don't know if that movie though has that tone. Like that tone is set forth. Like that's that movie.
Right.
This movie, part of the lack of focus. One of my notes is that. Indiana Jones series is based on the serials that you would watch on TV back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And The Shadow is based on, obviously, pulp serials itself. So the source material is very much the same.
Right.
Indiana Jones are solid stories. It's solid storytelling.
Well, Indiana Jones also, even though the storylines and some of the action are based on those,
Sure.
I feel like the tone is not.
Well,
they kind of establish their own tone.
I don't mean in terms of jokey tones.
Okay.
I mean in terms of lack of focus in terms of The Shadow, in terms of storytelling wise. That's what I'm talking about. Just the focus of what that story like. And I'm not saying whether it's an executive or producer, somebody sits down and is like, okay, we're gonna make The Shadow. I want it to be I want it to be just like this. I want it to be just like I remember. Whereas when you sat down and do Indiana Jones, it was like, oh, I want it to be an homage to those.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want it to be what those were because those weren't great. We were 10 years old when we watched these.
Yeah.
The
other thing is you're comparing The Shadow to something that Spielberg and Lucas worked on.
Why can't I do that? I
feel like their work is elevated above. Like, it's just like, come on.
Why can't I expect that of anything else? Why can't, when I see something when it's done right and it's done great, I should expect that from my other movies?
You should expect people to work off of that and to have learned from that.
So I should excuse mediocrity?
To reach those levels is difficult.
So basically what you're saying is my critique should be like, listen, man, you did the best you could do, but you're mediocre and you're not good enough. But you know what? I'm not going to give you a hard time about it because you're not good. You're not that good enough. You're not like the greats. Sorry, I can't do that.
I just think of going up to everybody and go, no, Spielberg. Like, no shit, there's no Spielberg. It's Spielberg.
If you have if somebody gives you a chocolate bar and it is the best chocolate bar you have ever had in your entire life, nothing compares to it. Like you orgasm after you have this chocolate bar, and then you're not going to like any other kind of chocolate.
Oh, I'm not eating this chocolate bar in public ever again.
Well, this is what I'm saying. If you experience something that's really good, and I'm not saying that I orgasmed during Indiana Jones. That's a bad analogy. But what I'm saying is that if you see it done right and you see it done great, you can't really excuse other stuff just because, well, they tried.
I get that.
But that's not. Again, we're down a ways where I wasn't meaning to go. I'm just simply saying I thought The Shadow lacked focus.
I'll give you that. There are some moments where they try to skew darker, but they've already kind of established the pulpy feel.
I think they try to do a lot of different things. I think they tried to be, hey, jokey and use. And I know that I read that Kep wrote a lot of the dialogue to kind of match Baldwin's sensibilities and his comedic timing at that point.
Which I like.
And I have no problem with Alec Baldwin as a Shadow. In fact, that's one of my, when we put down our likes and dislikes, that's one of my likes is him. I think he's really good in the movie. I just think that everything around him is not as strong. Whatever it is, whatever the reason, I'm not even going to go into. I have no idea, but to me, it just didn't. It didn't help him at all, in terms of help him as the character of the Shadow.
Sure. That was one of my notes as well. Like, why didn't he do more stuff like this? I'm kind of surprised because he is a really good part of the movie. Even people who, don't like this movie can see, he's actually not bad with his dry wit and his ability to kind of be, I believe him being a bad guy. So I believe him being the rich guy. I believe him, everything he does is like, it's not something that I can't see him doing.
You talking about as if the Shadow was among us in real life?
As like a hero. Yeah. I believe Alec Baldwin is the Shadow. I believe everything else he's done.
He
is
looks
a
like
ruse.
when he puts the fake nose on, he looks like his brother Daniel Baldwin.
Now, do you like the fake nose?
I don't mind it. I don't. I mean, I understand it, so it's fine. No, it's fine. I don't care. I wasn't anti-nose. It just looks really weird. But again, I think that harkens back to the Dick Tracy style in New York City. That style, that 90s style of filmmaking. I'm fine with it. That's fine.
I kind of like the nose.
I know you do.
I like that he has to hide his, like, when he appears, he still hides his face so that no one can really identify him as the
Not
Shadow,
for nothing,
which
but
I like.
if you've worn scarves before, it is really difficult to keep the scarf over your mouth like that.
He's telepathic. He just keeps it on with his mouth.
No, that's not how it works. That's telekinesis.
He's got both.
No, he doesn't.
He drives the piece of glass into Shiwan Khan's mind at the
that's
end.
right. Well, there you go. Again, muddied and a lack of focus.
Telekinesis
What
is
are
how
his
you drive
powers?
the dagger. Telekinesis and telepathy.
So now, speaking of that, towards the end, are we to assume that Lamont Cranston, the Shadow, had people remove his brain, just take his brain out? Like, are we to assume that? That's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, badass.
Like, it makes sense if I can understand, like, if the piece of glass damaged that part of the brain and he wasn't able to do it again, that's fine. But you went and did you go and be like, cut it out just in case, scoop it out?
I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know. At the very least, he's like, I want him sent here so that my own people can keep an eye on
Well,
him.
his guy was the one that cut it out. So who's to assume he's just like, you're going to cut it out of his head?
I mean, the glass definitely stabbed him there. And clearly he knew where he was stabbing him, so...
Hey, Shadow, how you
sure.
doing? How you doing? I'm about to perform procedure. This guy, his lobes are damaged. He can't do anything. You're going to remove it.
You're going to scoop it out, or I'm going to scoop it out.
Release me at once. No, we won't have any of that, Mr. Khan. Let's just have a look at those stitches, shall we? Stitches? What have you done? Saved your life, that's what. Of course, we had to remove a little section of your frontal lobe, but you'll never miss it, believe me. It's a part nobody ever uses. Unless you believe in telepathy. Wait! Come back here! You! Come here! I am C1 Khan! The last descendant of Genghis Khan!
Oh man, that reminds me of the movie Malice. You ever see that?
No.
Alec Baldwin, isn't that? Yeah. Sorry, that's a weird reference. Because he says that he makes, I can't remember the line, but he talks about he's gonna carve out your spleen with a spoon or something like that. That's a really good movie. Actually, you know what? That's going on the list.
Yeah.
That's forgotten. That's a good movie. Really good movie. He's a bad guy in that. Oh, it's a good movie. All right.
Well, I think maybe that's also why he's good as the Shadow, is because he can play a good bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
That darkness that he uses at the beginning
Alec
really
Baldwin's,
helps him.
Alec Baldwin's a good actor.
Yeah.
A really good actor, and he's proven it time and time again. Oh, I you know what? I'll tell you one thing I enjoyed when he rips off his face.
Oh, I have that note as well.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
I like how they did it.
It's creepy for a movie, probably. For
Well, there was no
kids.
blood, but yeah, but like I like how they did it. I like how the camera was moving, circling around it, and it was hiding the cuts, and with the lights and stuff like that, with the stuff in the foreground, and then it gets to the end, and it's basically like he's ripping off the mask, like in Mission Impossible movie, one of those.
Absolutely, yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, but yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was. I thought that scene was well done. It was like, especially the second cut when they go in and his hand is all in his face. Like that's
his eyeball,
really
yeah.
good. Yeah, that's really well done. Today that would have been CGI.
Oh, absolutely.
Boo.
You could've ripped off a like Xbox 360 style
Yeah.
CG face, and it would be like, all right.
And it would have looked fake. And
Absolutely.
like, because even like when he gets shot with the arrows, and he rips through the shadow. Like,
Oh,
if
right, I
you're-
like that.
But if you're looking at the shadow when he steps through, you could see it. You could see the digital artifact.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of like, don't use CG for this. It's not ready for that. I do feel like they didn't use the shadow trick enough. Like, that's his whole shtick. But I get that was probably difficult to do. But I would have liked to see more shadow stuff.
Well, he laughs an awful lot in the movie. Like, he reveals this, like, the whole laughter thing, you know, is kind of, like, weird.
I like the laughter.
I like it. It's
it
just...
drives the people crazy. It's like, where is he? Now, did you notice in Margot's flashback to Lamont's past, when he's in his full-on Mongolian getup and he's butchering people as the warlord, are we going to assume he's eating people? He's got blood all over his mouth, in his mouth, like he's been biting and chewing on people. Did you notice that?
You talking about when he's on his horse? Or when he's sitting there like, you should not be here, with his cocaine nails?
Not at that point. But then, you should not be here, then it flashes to him, like, just chopping down people. He might be on a horse. I don't think he was, though.
I don't know. I mean...
And then he turns to the camera, he's got blood all over his mouth. Like,
maybe he wiped
been eating people?
I don't know if he's eating people. I mean, maybe.
I was like, all right, I get that he was evil, but why are we making him a
He
cannibal?
probably just has blood on his face. How about the fact that the bomb that Shi-Wan Khan is using is pretty much the bomb from Batman and Robin?
I really like that. I mean, I don't really like Batman and Robin, but I like the old school digital display on it. I thought that was really cool.
I got you.
I like that.
But it's the bomb from Batman and Robin.
Pretty much.
It's almost like they reused it.
I could
In the beginning, I'm talking about in the beginning when the Robins
I got you,
are...
yeah. I could see that. We got this in storage. Yeah, right.
Use it. No one remembers the shadow. You will use this bomb for your movie.
You will watch, like, and subscribe to our podcast.
Oh, the shadow. The shadow knows what evil lurks in the hearts of forgotten cinema people.
I've been talking about stuff I really like about the movie. One of the things that bugged me the
hold
most...
on. You have a dislike? You actually have a dislike?
Well, the inconsistency and stuff like that is probably... I would really like to have seen it it remade. One of the things I don't like, and I don't think I ever liked, is the Mongolians that walk around in full getup, like old school sword armor. They're walking around the city, and no one's noticing these guys.
They didn't know. They noticed him in Night of the Museum. Why can't they notice him here? Also, how did they get there? He shows up in a silver tomb. What did they do? Did they get on the? They get on a Pan Am flight?
Yep,
and they get there?
Full armor. No, they went through the no metal detectors back then.
No.
Can you just your knives have to be put in?
Were they on a cargo ship? He was like, you guys are going now. You're going to take 6 months to get there. I will travel by silver tomb.
Passport, please. What is your reason? What's the reason for your visit?
Maybe they were picked up. Maybe they were picked up by a phone booth by these two guys named Bill and Ted, and then they were taken.
Just sit right here, man. We gotta fix the phone booth. Where'd they go? So yeah, I mean that's probably my big peeve. Is every time I see them, I'm like, how are they walking around town? Why aren't they just dressed in normal clothes? Even Shi-Wan gets a suit at one point and goes, "All right, I've got to blend in."
With his fake beard. His beard looks fake. That second when they're meeting together in the restaurant, I was like staring at his beard, going, "Is that real? That's not real, is it?"
Maybe just has a patchy.
It changes too because it's very like his beard is very. In that scene, it looks like it's just his long mustache hairs and they're down here, and then the next time we see him, he's got a full on beard. So it looked like it changed a little. You'd have to go back.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe I'm just kind of like,
that.
I don't know. I mean, this did take me 2 sittings because once again, I fell asleep halfway through the first time because I'm old.
You're not that old. You gotta wake up, dude.
Listen, I'm up every morning doing stuff called parenting.
Watch the movie in the friggin' morning.
I gotta work.
Start the movie at 7.
I gotta make sure that everyone gets their scheduling going.
You could have watched this movie with your kids.
Oh no!
It's from 1994.
No. I'm writing notes, man. I can't be watching the movie with them.
Yeah, your notes.
Listen, I've got full on. I got plans to get them to watch these movies.
Your son's about the same age that I was when I watched. He is the same age as I was when I watched.
I know. Maybe I'm keeping him sheltered too much. maybe I'm being too protective. You're right, Butler. You're right. Rated R movies it is. Let's go. Want to watch it?
I was watching Aliens at that age, but that was probably
it was an action movie.
I never watched Alien, but Aliens.
Yeah, that's more of an action movie. It's a great movie, but the special edition with the guns.
I love that scene.
When I first saw that the special edition after I'd seen the original and that they had the gun scene, I was like, why did you cut that out?
I thought it was really cool.
For those who don't know, if you haven't seen the special edition, there's a scene where the aliens are trying to get to the door that they barricade, and they have these 2 automatic machine guns that just go off, and they're just must be killing 40 aliens, and they're just going through all their ammo because they think that that's going to stop, and they just realize that it's just blowing through all their ammo. But it's a great scene, and that they never put it in there, probably because it was too long, made the movie too long.
Yeah, then it follows up by my favorite scene, which is when they're in the ceiling.
Oh, great scene, good stuff.
I always have to look up at a paneled ceiling now.
Oh, I always think that.
Yep.
There's 2 things that I always do. I think of that when I'm in a room and the panel thing, I always think about, they're in the room. That's no way, man. That's right in the room. I think of that. And when I go to my car at the end of the night, when it's dark out at the theater, and granted, we're usually underneath the
Parking garage.
But when it's outdoors and I go to a car late at night, all I think about is the Lost Boys scene when the guy goes to the couple's going to the car, they make it out, and you just hear like them flying like and they rip off the cars. I always think of that. I don't know why. I don't think I'm going to get picked up by vampires, but I always think of those scenes.
Nice.
What were we talking about again? The Shadow?
I think we're talking about The Shadow. I don't know.
So you would definitely recommend people to go watch this. Oh, your hesitation. Because you love this movie.
This is different. I love this movie, but I understand the things that people don't like about it are the things I love about it. I think we've done a film like that for you, right? Have we done a film where it's like you recommend it, but most people don't like it? Oh, Hudson Hawk.
No,
we
not
did
Hudson Hawk. Red Rock West. I think the Red Rock West one, maybe Hudson Hawk, but Red Rock West, I said that if you like filmmaking, that I would. Oh no, did I recommend Red Rock West like that?
It wasn't quite that, but Hudson Hawk was a movie that most people don't like, and I know that The Shadow is not very popular. Most people didn't like The Shadow. Most people didn't like Hudson Hawk, but you want to recommend Hudson Hawk.
Yeah.
I want to tell people to watch The Shadow, but I understand the things that people don't like about it are the things I love about it, and I understand that it doesn't really hold up to the superhero genre nowadays. It's not what people expect.
That's not fair to saddle that with, though.
I understand that.
I understand what you're saying.
Most people would. If you're a cinephile and you appreciate 90s cinema, sure. But if you're not...
This goes out to all the people that tell me they're cinephiles, and then I'm like, oh, did you see this movie? No, I don't watch movies before 1991 or whatever it is. I'm like, you know what? You're not. You're not a movie aficionado or cinephile. Or you can self-proclaim it all you want, but you're not one of those unless you go see movies that were made before you were even born. I mean, like, I'm sorry, but these were done. There are movies out there that are fantastic. Yes, maybe they're dated. Yes, maybe they don't make sense now because of knowing what you know, but you can't discount these movies just because they're not modern.
Sure,
and
yeah.
So I think while I know where we are now in terms of the MCU and all that stuff, I understand what you're saying, but I also, on the other, in terms of comparison to the modern day filmmaking and what The Shadow is, I think that on the flip side, you can't discount The Shadow because of that.
Okay, then here's what I would say. I love this movie. I love Alec Baldwin in the role. I love the style. I love his outfit. I love the jokey tone of it.
I love his designer labels.
I think his outfit's cool, the black with that hint of red. I was really drawn to that as a kid. I was like, oh, that's cool.
I have a challenge for you. I think you should dress like the Shadow for this Halloween.
I've actually thought about that numerous times, but I can't now.
Why?
I've committed to Beetlejuice and Lydia Dietz as this year's Halloween costume.
Why? Because you have to do the couple one?
We don't have to. We never usually do, but this year she's always really wanted to do it, and I'm like, all right, let's do it. I'll do The Shadow as a different.
No, whatever.
Work as The Shadow. Listen, I'm also, for people who don't know me, I'm a little shorter. I don't pull off a trench coat.
A little. So you're saying I could do The Shadow?
You could definitely do The Shadow.
I could pull off The Shadow. Absolutely.
But listen, if we want to do this modern remake of The Shadow and his outfit's a little different, I'm down.
So
I would recommend it. Yeah. So I love this movie. Everything about it that people don't like, I love about it, and I think it all works really well. There are things that are a little but overall, it's a really cool character. I like his power set. I like the tone, the jokiness, the look, the fact that it takes place in the 30s. You don't see a Batman movie take place in the 30s other than, I think one of the reasons that people really love the animated Batman series so much is that it's modern day, but it really takes place in the 30s.
Well, Gotham is drawn like an old style 30s, 40s.
Right. So if you
city.
like that, it's kind of like a live action version of that, which is really cool. I really like the look of the vehicles back then, like the outfits, the clothes, the suits. Everything just really works for me in that way. Like I said, I really like his powers. I love the score by Jerry Goldsmith.
Oh, yeah,
I haven't
we
mentioned
haven't
that.
talked about that,
That
yeah.
score and that theme song has stuck with me forever. Like, I think that's up there with the great superhero themes.
Whoa, that's a bold
With
statement.
the, like, Batman, Superman obviously are better, but superhero themes.
It reminded me a lot of Sky Captain, The World of Tomorrow. Like, it reminded me of that, a lot of that tone, that kind of style, like that kind of like dun da da, like bombastic.
Sure, yeah, it's bombastic.
Yeah.
But it's also got this darkness behind it. But I really like it, and they pepper it in a lot. And I like the I'm not a music guy, so I don't know what you would call it, the bridge. But whereas do 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 do, and it's like it goes from bombastic to that little like, okay, we're like searching for something. It goes back up. But I've always really liked Jerry Goldsmith.
Well,
I've
you
loved
like
where
his
he does
theme.
with
You
Star
like-
Trek. I love the theme.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to like about this movie that I like, but I can't tell you you're going to like it.
Well, no, I think it's I knew where you were going.
Go ahead, yeah.
No, I knew where you were going. I think it's unfair for us because this is episode 14. Is that right?
We've been doing this for a while now.
This is episode 14. Yeah, we've been doing this for quite a long time. So 14. You're thinking like we've been doing this for probably like 3 months now.
Right.
I think we probably should revise that final question where we're like, should you revisit this? Because honestly, you should always revisit movies. You should always go back to movies. We're not going to talk about these movies if there's not some kind of connection we have to it. So I think even us talking about it is telling people, check it out.
But you can lose your connection with things, which I think you brought up. You brought up in the past.
But I would never tell I would never tell anybody don't watch it. You know what I mean? Like, you should watch The Shadow again, and you might have the same idea that we have. You might love it. You might be like, this movie was terrible.
So should we just change it to what did you feel about it now?
I just think that we should, moving forward, it's probably a better question. There's probably a better question than should you go back to watch it, because you should go back and watch it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is developing
As we
speak.
I mean, don't you agree though? 'Cause
All right,
you
so
wouldn't-
let's do this then.
Okay.
If it's now, there are more and more at this point. There are movies on this list that I have not seen.
Right. Oh yeah.
Because you've just seen more movies.
What are you trying to say? I'm a nerd. I don't go out.
I think you're.
Correct.
I will absolutely admit that you are a bigger cinephile than me. I think you've also got 12 years of movie
course.
watching over me.
But that's the whole point. We did this.
Right, exactly. When it is a movie that we've already seen before, it should be, what did you think about it then, and what do you think about it now? And that's it.
Yeah.
And if it's on this podcast, absolutely you should watch it. If you're listening to it, we do the spoiler. You've probably seen it before you're listening, or you're interested in the movie enough to listen to this anyway.
Yeah.
So go watch it. If you're that interested, put it in and watch it.
The people that are listening to this now who are younger than us, both of us, might only know Alec Baldwin from 30 Rock. You might also know him from, I know he was in Hunt for Red October. He was the first Jack Ryan, all that stuff. You might know him for that too. But, he's done a lot of stuff. So
It's true.
And
a lot of his stuff is, I think, probably forgotten cinema.
Yeah. But in this regard, this would be because this was at the height of his career. Because I want to say Hunt for Red October was the year before this. Or maybe a couple years. Was that 91 or
that's
90?
91.
91. This is 94. She shot this in 93.
Yeah, okay.
So this is at, he was big time after Hunt for Red October.
I mean,
so
anybody that you're putting front and center on your July 4th movie.
Absolutely. This movie was definitely like, this is going to be a huge hit, because that is a big weekend to open. That's the weekend that Independence Day opened when it opened. Like, that's when Will Smith had his run of films.
You knew it was coming out in July.
It was always that weekend. Yep. It was always that weekend. So yes. So no, they were trying to get this to be a huge hit, and it wasn't. And it got destroyed by Forrest Gump, and The Lion King was killing it, and The Speed was killing it. It came out they had the right time. Unfortunately, they had movies ahead of it and movies behind it that are still well known. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
So before we get into like your opinion, like what I just did, do you think? Let me ask you this last question before we get into that. Do you think The Shadow would have fared better, and maybe even gotten sequels, had it come out May or the end? Like, let's say it's the summer movie, like the maybe the August 1st movie.
Sure.
Do you think maybe we'd still see The Shadow, or it would be more well known had it come out in August?
No, I think that it's in there. There's definitely a lot of inconsistencies in terms of performance, story. I think the tone, the fact that sometimes it's jokey, some people don't know what to make of it. I think that helps. I think maybe that we both love the fact that we both love the 90s style. We both love the production design, but we might be alone in that. There might be people that are just like, that looks fake, and you know what I mean?
It wasn't well reviewed. People didn't like it back then.
Right. So but Ebert liked it. But yeah, but I think that I don't think it's a universally well liked movie just because I think people don't know what to make of it.
Sure.
So I don't think I think it would have always had this kind of like back and forth. Oh, it's okay, whatever. If it wasn't in the summer, I might have made less money because the summer people just
gone
going
to it to go to it. Okay.
Right.
So either way, you think The Shadow was doomed to kind of wallow in obscurity for a while?
I just don't
until
think
we brought it back up now.
I just don't think it's as like I said. I just think it's muddied. I think it's the tone. I think the tonal shifts. Is it a terrible movie? No, it's not. Is it the greatest movie I've ever seen? Obviously not. But it's fine. It's fun. There's, like I said, Baldwin's good. There's funny stuff. In terms of just kind of like you're into the story, and then you're like an hour in, and you're like, what's happening? Like you there's moments when you're just kind of like, okay, I'm not really sure what's going on here, but all right, we're almost done, so we'll just get to it. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's my fun. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's kind of where I am.
I can see that. I mean, if this movie was going to be better, it would have at least had a cult following, which I don't think it really does.
No, it doesn't.
So, I guess I agree with you there. I mean, it is short, which is nice. It's not like a 2.5-hour superhero
right.
movie.
No, you should, like we've talked about that before. Movies shouldn't be that long.
I think if they added maybe 15 minutes, made it 2 hours, I think maybe they could have added stuff that would have helped it a little bit more.
Well, I think you're missing scenes. I mean, we talked about maybe they're missing scenes with Claymore in terms of him turning heel real quick.
I would love to see some deleted scenes from this movie. I would love to see special features, and I think that is another reason why it's dropped to obscurity. It's like DVDs don't usually come out with no features at all. When they do, no one had hope for it. Right. It's out because they had it in a storage bin, and they're like, hey, let's put this movie out.
But I'd be okay with a remake, a reboot, something. I'd be okay with seeing the story again. Sure. Just how it's done, however it's done. I would be okay with that. I'd be interested in that. Unless you're talking like it's a CW show, and no. And it's like The Shadow's like some 18-year-old kid from high school, and he's just, he's just got the world's problems on, and he's just, I don't know if I'm going to pass my SATs and all that nonsense. No.
SATs?
Pass.
One of my bosses after you.
That's a hard pass. That's a hard pass there. But
I think it would work, as a gritty maybe HBO show.
You're always about the six episode original series.
So the Netflix superhero shows are gone now, the Marvel ones.
Yes.
We're not going to get Daredevil again or Punisher, and the other ones we won't talk about because they're not that good. At least season 1 of Luke Cage is very good.
Well,
so Netflix.
I mean, I'm not going to argue there, but
okay.
Come on, he wears that suit at the end, the bad guy, and Luke Cage.
I don't like the last. We're getting out of this.
Well, if you're going to bring stuff up like that,
all right, the last guy, the bad guy at the end is dead. That was a very successful show, and I think it was done very successfully. So let's get the crew from, the like Daredevil and Punisher. Let's bring them back. Netflix could probably buy the rights to The Shadow pretty easily. They've got the money.
I don't know why. Would they be able to? This is DC, right?
Some of Shadow, I believe, is DC now, but not again. It's from what I could read, it's kind of muddied on what you can. So what's
if they can get the rights to whatever
enough of it, right?
Okay, yes.
Let's see Netflix put something like that out. Like I know they're trying to get some superhero. They're Mark Millar's Millarverse or whatever. They're trying to do comics and movies based on that. I think The Shadow would fit well into a nice hole that the Punisher and Daredevil left.
Yep.
Of this kind of that kind of gritty things. I would love to see a Shadow done in that style. I think that would work well.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I mean, I know that I've talked about on this podcast, I'm not a fan of Watchmen, the movie, but I will say that I'm interested in the HBO show after seeing the trailer.
Yeah,
so
I like the movie.
Whatever, but
that's fine. That's fine that you don't like it.
Agree to disagree. So yeah,
like The Shadow, most people.
So yeah, that's fine. I could see that. And then will that happen? Probably not. But yeah, no, I could see it.
I don't think it's going to be too long before we see something with The Shadow. I think people are trying to claw at any superhero they can kind of put on screen.
I'll tell you what, Butler. If I end up selling a script, which is a possibility, and that happens, and they ask me what do I want to do, I will tell them I want to do The Shadow. How about that?
That would be awesome. Let's start brainstorming. Let's go. All right, so I think we've reached the natural conclusion to our shadow chapter.
The natural end. Well, thanks for listening. So if you like what you hear, if you agree with me, as you should, please let us know. You can contact us on our website at forgottencinemapodcast.com. There's a contact page there. Please feel free to suggest if you want us to do a movie that we haven't talked about, or you're interested in hearing about, our thoughts on that. We're open for that. If you had any questions, I don't know, we've never talked about this, but I mean, if you guys have any questions, we're more than welcome to answer them in the podcast.
Absolutely, yeah.
And please, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher or even Google Play, please rate, subscribe, review, share. Let us know how we're doing. Let everyone know about us. We can't get anywhere without our audience. In fact, you should support all kind of podcasts, because my wife told me the other day that a podcast that she was listening to had the stat that 4 out of 5 people do not listen to podcasts. So hopefully, let's change that. Give us a try. Give a lot of people a try. And I don't know. Podcasts are fun. So sometimes people know what they're talking about. I'm not saying we do, but
no, we know. One half of us does. It's not you.
Oh. Wow. Is it you?
It's one of the mics. All right. So plug time. You want me to go first? You want to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I've got 2 other podcasts I do. I do Two Player Bros with my brother Alex, where we talk about all things video games. We preview and review things on all systems: PC, Xbox, PlayStation, VR. If you guys want us to do mobile, we'll do mobile, but I usually stay away from that because those games are usually awful. So that's fun. You can hear us bicker and argue about video games and our opinions on them. And so that's Two Player Bros. You can listen to us wherever podcasts can be found, or visit us at twoplayerbros.com. I've also got Crackin' One Open with Mike and Elise, where my fiance and I crack open a beer, usually a craft beer. We talk about a little bit about the brewery, the history of the beer style, what that current beer tastes like, a little bit about the art around the beer, because a lot of beer nowadays has really good art on the beer, and people put a lot of hard work into their logos and labels. And then we talk about the latest pop culture, movie and TV news and reviews. So Crack One Open is about brews, news, and pop culture reviews. You can check us out wherever podcasts can be found as well.
I have a couple of books out: Adam Parker and the Radioactive Scout and Adam Parker and the High School Bully. Surprise, they are shared universe. They follow the life and times of amateur sleuth Adam Parker, who, if you are familiar with Encyclopedia Brown, it's basically a riff off of that if Encyclopedia Brown grew up and hated what he did. So that's Adam Parker. That is available at Amazon.com. You can purchase paperback or ebook. And yeah, and you can go to my website, michaeldfield.com. That has just kind of like some excerpts from scripts that I've written. Also clips or from series that I've done, web series, scenes from the movies, Puzzle Maker Son. That's 2 of them. That's the only 2 of them.
Both very good.
Yeah, Mike's in them. And I'm actually in Puzzle Maker Son. I apologize. But yeah, that's it. Just writing. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Buy his script so he can make the shadow.
Yeah, who are you? $10. I'll sell it for $10.
And join us next week for the 1990 comedy movie House Party.
Yes.
Kid and Play and Martin Lawrence.
My youth.
Martin Lawrence.
My youth.
Get ready for some early 90s hip hop.
Early 90s. That's what is it? I just thought of it. Oh, I don't remember the name of it. What the style that was called? Oh, I blanked. So hey, I'll see you next week. So as always, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.
Blue Coal presents The Shadow, a man of mystery who strikes terror in the very souls of sharpsters, lawbreakers, and criminals.